Hello, I'm Vara,
And I'm Roxy.
and you're listening to VCR. Hey, Roxy, how are you? Like I don't know.
Hello. Huh?
But like I don't know.
Well, if you can't tell, I'm exhausted.
Someone,
I'm
I'm not gonna
exhausted.
say who, but someone had a wild week in Vegas, right?
Did.
I'm not saying that they did something hangover style, but it was, hangover
Almost.
themed. Yeah, definitely. Someone went out for a bachelorette party and just partied her week away over
Oof. Man, it was a doozy. It
there.
was a doozy. I am so freaking tired.
Oh my goodness. But she had fun. Didn't you have fun,
I
Roxy?
did. I did. We had a really good time.
Yeah, went out, had a good time, got to do some immersive experience stuff, and
Yeah.
got to do a little bit of sightseeing and definitely a lot of partying going
A
on.
lot of partying. My body hates me right now for the
Hmm.
amount of alcohol that was consumed over the last few days.
She just got in last night, and of course, I woke her up this morning so we could do the show because,
Yeah, so I'm not too happy.
yeah, something that kept putting me off for that. I was like, wait a minute, when are we going to? I didn't know you were in Vegas. Why didn't you
I was
tell
like, I
me?
told you about this.
So yeah, that's our fun little moment till now.
That
But
was our fun little argument.
yeah, why last night I was out researching for our show today.
Sorry, Vic, my nose is super itchy.
Oh,
Now, as soon as we landed in Texas,
mhm.
I started watering, nose started itching. I was like, oh my gosh,
The
I'm home. I'm
allergies.
home.
You're home. Oh my goodness. So last night I went out and did some research for today's show, and today's show is brought to you by nobody because no one's sponsoring us. But you can if you want to throw some of that money our way. But in the meantime, we are basically today's show is kind of an interesting topic, I think. So we just finished up celebrating Halloween, and I assume we all had fun Halloween and we all kind of had a fun time. I mean, I had a very low pro Halloween. I know Roxy did too. Well,
It was
no,
very odd.
yes.
Very
So
odd.
we all kind of did our own little low pro thing. But then Halloween gives way to another really big um, tradition, especially in the Mexican American culture and in the Mexican culture of Dia de los Muertos, so or Day of the Dead. So basically, we are talking about the Day of the Dead celebrations and where it comes from and why is it so close to Halloween and does this cause some issues? Blah 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 blah. So that's what we're doing today. Roxy, do you ever celebrate Day of the Dead?
I have not. It's
Mm.
something that I just actually started looking into not that long ago because unfortunately I didn't learn about it until I was older.
Don't feel bad about that. That's actually something that's kind of come up in the topic. And that's something that, same for me. I maybe started celebrating this about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. To be
Mm-hmm.
honest, I started doing the altar or the ofrendas,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, and that's only recent. And you shouldn't feel bad about it because, in reality, so for Mexican Americans, basically, there's a difference. There's a difference if you don't know out there. So there's Mexicans, those who are actually from Mexico. And then there's Mexican Americans, those who are like me and Roxy, who are born here, who are of Mexican descent, were referred to as Mexican Americans. Some people have issues wrapping their head around that concept. I don't understand why, but they do. Uh, it's kind of like people who don't understand like Texas and chicken fried steak. It's like, no, it's actually very understandable. You just don't want to understand it.
It's a
So
steak
it's a
if I
steak
like
that's
chicken.
chicken fried.
Yeah.
So like chicken fried chicken, like so fried chicken, no, chicken fried chicken.
Right.
There's a difference. So so basically, I only started doing this not that long ago, but the truth is it didn't start becoming a thing in the United States until the 70s. So it was mostly just practiced in Mexico. and then kind of started making its way more into the US with more and more, of course, uh, Hispanics in the United States. It starts to emerge more in around the 1970s, and then it starts recently like really kind of taking off. And I think it kind of starts taking off again because you have quite a few movies that kind of came out about it that kind of brought it into more of a cultural limelight, let's
Mhm.
say, like The Book of Life,
Yes, I
that
love that
animated one.
movie.
And then of
Coco.
course Coco. Yep, that those are the two huge ones that have really, really
Hmm.
brought the feast of Day of the Dead into bigger light. But what's the history of it and what does it do? So the history goes back maybe about 3,000 years ago. This was something that was originally practiced by the Aztecs, and originally it did not fall in November. Okay, it fell more in July. And you have a couple of things that are happening here. It was originally an entire month to honor the dead, but it was also around that time to do the harvest. So it was a feast of the harvest, feast of honoring the dead, but it was also a feast to honor the goddess of the dead, who I'm always and forever going to butcher her name because I can't pronounce it, but Exihal is the closest that I can pronounce it. But this is the goddess of the Aztec goddess of death. And so it kind of celebrated three different things in once in a month. But then the way it changes and how we end up in November is very, very interesting. Actually, no, it's pretty simple. Uh, the Spaniards come. So the Spaniards come
No.
and they're like, nah, son, we ain't doing it like this no more. Let me tell you how this is going to go, nephew. And that's what happens because then the Catholic Church gets involved and they're like, okay, so they had the one thing about bringing the Catholic Church is they kind of had an understanding of how other cultures work, but they had an even better understanding of taking that culture and putting it into a Catholic setting. And the way
Yeah.
they did that, of course, is by using the military as one tool. But the other thing is that it was to honor the dead, right? And your ancestors. So Catholics traditionally have a 2-day celebration. Actually, it's actually a 3-day celebration, but people don't really understand that, or they don't understand that. It's called the Triduum, all right? And there are a couple of Triduums in the Catholic calendar, but one of the Triduums is, of course, what we popularly know as All Souls Day.
Hmm.
Before All Souls Day, you have All Saints Day. But Roxy, do you know what the previous day is to All Saints Day? That's part of the Triduum that actually you very much love.
All
That I
Hallows Day?
Yep, All Hallows Eve, Halloween. It's actually part of the Catholic Triduum. So, and it's in the title, Halloween. I think we tend to
Hmm.
forget that, but Halloween is just another way of saying All Hallows Eve, or what that translates to from the Latin is Holy Night. So it was the Holy Night before All Saints Day. And a lot of the things that we do in Halloween do have religious roots. I mean, they have all kinds of roots, but one of them is, if you've ever want to know why we pass out candy during Halloween, that comes from a tradition of what's called soul cakes. Have you ever heard of soul cakes? They
No.
actually look like little cookies. So they're little cookies, basically. It's a plain sweet little cookie, and it has a cross on it. And on that night of All's Hallow Eve, you would pass that out,
Hmm.
to people. I mean, there's more to it, but the Triduum is All Hallows Eve / Halloween, All Saints Day, and All Souls Day. So Catholics knowing this, and they're like, oh, okay, so you honor the dead, we honor the dead. So what we're going to do is we're going to take your stuff from July and we're going to move it over here. And I'm sure you're not going to have a problem with it because our military says you probably don't have a problem with it, right?
Right. They
So
told us you're fine with it. So
you're
it'll be great.
fine with
It'll
it.
work out great.
And instead of a month, you get 3 days. So that's what happens, and that's really the long story short of it without going into a massive history. um But that's how this ends up happening, is that you have Halloween, All Souls Day, All Saints Day, and I mean, I'm sorry, All Saints, then All Souls. And so Day of the Dead tends to fall on the All Saints and All Souls Day. And that's deliberately done. And that was done, obvious. I just explained that. But it combines what's happening. So that's how it goes from July into November. And basically, to water it down even more, what is the purpose of this? Like, why do we do this? So in the Aztec tradition, when it came to honoring the dead and your ancestors, it was firmly believed that, it was a way for your ancestors to never be forgotten. And
Mhm.
because they're never forgotten, they would live on, type of situation. And
Mhm.
I think a really good, so Coco is I haven't seen Book of Life, but Coco is a really good
Excuse me?
example. I have not seen Book of Life. I'm sorry, I have not seen it. I
You're
know.
joking.
No, I
Okay.
have
We
not
have to
seen it.
watch this movie then.
Okay, then we will. But
I love that movie. Actually, I
really,
think I have the Blu-ray. I might have the Blu-ray.
so in your opinion, what did you like better, Book of Life or Coco?
Ooh. Um
What made you cry harder, Roxy?
right?
Right.
I think Coco made me cry more.
Hmm.
The
Yeah,
emotional part of it, but the Book of Life is so beautiful and they do explain it really well in that movie.
excellent. But I'm gonna build off of Coco because I only know Coco. But like
Yeah.
when Coco discovers his dad, who he didn't know, or his grandfather, I'm sorry, his no, his great grandfather is what it would be, and how he was fading out because no one was going to remember him.
Oh yeah.
That kind of bleeds into the fact that, you honor them so they would live on. Um, so that was part of it. For us, because we believe, and for modern terms, especially
Mhm.
with Christianity, we believe that there's an afterlife, so you're not going to be forgotten. You're not going to vanish into obscurity. So there's this, you have heaven, you have hell, and for Catholics, you have purgatory. So you got three spots if you're Catholic. If you're not, then you got heaven and hell. Uh, but the point is, your soul is somewhere, and it's to honor those and remember them and to offer prayers for them too. Because even with, and again, because Catholicism kind of changed things when they got there,
Right.
there is the concept that, you should pray for those who have passed on because you don't know where they're at. We always kind of like to feel good about, oh, they're in heaven. We don't.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I'm,
I mean, if anything
you
ever
know,
happens to me, I'm pretty sure we all know where I'm not going.
I'm as a good Catholic boy, I'm aiming for purgatory, right? I'm kind of aiming for
Purgatory
purgatory.
would actually be nice compared
Yes.
to where I'm probably
I was
going.
like, I'm shooting for purgatory because purgatory will get me to heaven, but I know I'm gonna end up in purgatory for a minute. So I'm kind of shooting that direction. Um, but the whole thing is, to have people to pray for you because that helps them. And so this is part of that. It's a reminder to also pray for those who have passed away and to honor them. Now, there are many different ways to honor them, which kind of comes in going back to the Aztec tradition. You have marigolds. You have a lot of marigolds on your altar, and the reason you have marigolds is because they said that this is kind of a special flower where that scent attracts the dead to come back. They follow that scent to your altar. And then the reason you put out their favorite foods is to kind of help ensure that they get there. Because like it's the scent of the marigolds, it's the scent of their foods, it's the scent, like whatever their favorite food was. If their favorite food was mole, then you would make mole and put it up on the altar. If their favorite food was, I don't know, carne asada, then you put carne asada out there, or it was menudo, then you
Like,
put whatever their favorite stuff was
right, yeah, you
on the
put their
altar.
favorite candies, their
Yeah.
favorite.
Their favorite drink.
pampusas,
Yeah, you can
your
put their
favorite
favorite drink,
drink.
your favorite liquor, favorite
If they
favorite
smoke
beer.
cigarettes, put
You
them a
would,
pack of cigarettes.
yeah, you would do these kind of things. And it's something that would help attract their spirit back to you because they were allowed to visit you on that day. And so that was the belief of it, and that's why you did it. And you put the picture there too, because that way, for you to remember them, but also for them to remember. So that's kind of a thing, like that's why you would do that. And you do these really elaborate ones, or the truth is, it doesn't have to be elaborate. Like it
Mhm.
really doesn't. It can be something very simple, too. It can just be some flowers and a picture of that in particular person, maybe one item. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It really is based on what you can do. People go crazy and elaborate because they can, but it's not really required. Um, I took this course on it with this guy who owns a very popular shop here in Houston that kind of, deals with a lot of the Mexican American folklore and Mexicano folklore. Um, that dealt with a lot of these cultural things. And one of the interesting things that I learned is because I was always curious, how long do you leave the food out on the altar? Because it's like if you've
Is
cooked
it for
it,
those 3 days?
no, actually, so you can just do it for the day because it is on All Souls Day. So you just do it for the day and you eat it. Even you don't let it go to waste. You eventually eat it. So whatever time you're doing, you eat it. So you might eat it around dinner or whatever, but you don't
Hmm.
want to waste it. So that's kind of a thing as well. And also it's traditional to have like certain sweetbreads too. So like you go to the pandaria, for those of you
Hmm.
who don't know, it's a Mexican bakery, and you go get yourself some pan dulce, but very particularly you get pan de muerte, which is bread of the dead, is what it translates to. And there it's
Yeah.
this huge, like fluffy, like a concha, but without all the colorful pink or white or chocolate colors. It's just like white sugar on top of something that it's like a bun that has two like versions of a crossbone on it, and it's absolutely delicious. So you kind of celebrate it with that as well. So again, that's how you kind of build it. Now, Roxy, let me do what I do and share screen with you. I'm actually doing Roxy a favor here throughout the show. If you haven't picked up on it, she doesn't have to talk so much because she's still hungover.
Oh, I'm not really hungover. I'm just really tired.
Uh, he's tired. But so this is one of the altars that I've built. And as you can tell, it's pretty simple, you know. Um I just offered a few things. So I don't have space to put out everyone's photo. And people have gotten after me. They're like, "You have to have their individual photos everywhere." I'm like, "No, you don't. No, you don't. I can put out a photo because this entire little photo album here is like nothing of people who I know who have passed away in my life. That's a lot of photos to put out. I would have to build so many tiers of an altar to get everyone's photo on there. And I do not have the space to do that. So this is my ofrenda, which is basically, I have some of the Day of the Dead characters like the skulls, and then in this photo album is the photos of all those who I know who have passed away, like my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and some cousins and some family friends and things like that. And then over here, I don't know if you can see this. So I have this little green stuff in a little pot right
Yeah.
here that I've cut up. This was all stuff from my garden. This is rosemary and basil that I've made into a bouquet. And I've also have some fruits here that my grandparents and people would have liked, and I have different spices here to attract them. And I had these cups out because my grandparents very much loved coffee. So I poured coffee into that. And over here, you see that, Roxy?
That's the molcajete?
That's a molcajete, but that's not just any molcajete. That was
Grandma's?
That was my grandma's molcajete. So I put that out as well. And here's a jar of dates and other little things, And of course, being the good Catholic boy I am, I have my saints here. So I have Saint Martin de Porres. And the reason I kind of have him, I kind of have a little devotion to him, but his feast day is November 3rd. So the day after All Souls Day. So, and this was also my grandmother's. I had bought this for my grandmother when she was still alive. And then I have my Saint Teresa and Saint Anthony. So I have all this stuff. And of course, you can't forget Our Lady of Guadalupe here in the corner and this massive rosary. And these little canters also belong to my grandparents as well. So I have items of theirs there.
Hmm.
And then a year after that, I kind of got a little bit more elaborate. I made it more colorful. I put the flowers there. I put some flowers in the cup. And here I have some the pan de muerte. This one has the pink sugar. And back here is a little piggy or marana. So that's a little like pan dulce that's in the shape of a pig. It's kind of
Uh,
gingerbready.
aren't those like molasses flavored or something?
Yes, they're very delish, very delish. And
Hmm.
then a little cookie, and then I had some candies out for them. And but this was like the year after. So I kind of built. This year I didn't do it this year. Felt like as Roxy knows, funky year for me. So
You know,
I just really haven't done anything.
I
You
actually bought stuff
know?
to set a table, like put to set up an altar,
Hmm.
and I had every intention on doing it. It just didn't happen with my schedule.
It didn't
I
happen on
feel
your.
like crap that's what I'm saying, but I just didn't have time. Like I have everything right here. I was ready to set it up. I couldn't get around to it.
I get
I
it.
even bought marigolds. Like I even bought the marigolds to put.
Oh, well, this is part of it. This is what I have in my house. Now you can go to other places and they'll have their own elaborate
Mhm.
version of.
Beautiful. I've seen some really beautiful ones.
Oh yeah, I mean they do have some really gorgeous ones out there. And you know what? Let me do this. So I'm going to minimize this screen. I'm going to open up another screen because there was one that I wanted to show you that obviously is not here in my photos. So I'm not going to
Mhm.
show you. But the place I went to last night. So last night I went to a Day of the Dead festival here
Mhm.
in Houston. And what ends up happening is that I go there, I'm taking some gorgeous photos. Like there are just some beautiful photos of people out there celebrating Day of the Dead. And here's one of them. This is from a group called, and I want to make sure I get this right, Bata Allah. Batala, Batala. And they're a Houston cultural group that does music and clearly cultural events like this. And it's very beautiful. So these are two women who were part of that group celebrating Day of the Dead. This one was just super elaborate. Oh my God. So it took me a minute to figure out that her dress is made out of corn husks, but she's
Mhm.
wearing the skull, the sugar skull, the traditional. She's painted the bones on her. But like, look at that. I mean, that's just super elaborate. Look,
That is just, I can't believe that.
I
That's
wonder
crazy.
how long it took her to make that. I mean,
Ooh, that took some time.
yeah, I mean, God, that really did.
That's gonna be heavy too. Those corn husks.
Yeah, and this is something you don't do like overnight. This probably took
Oh
a few
no, this
months.
took like a whole year or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I was thinking a few months. Maybe it did take a whole year. I don't know. Roxy, next year, me and you should go do something like this. Like, we should dress up and go to this.
Right?
I don't know if you want to go that elaborate, but we should definitely dress up.
Definitely.
So, moving on. So hers was super elaborate too. Being I believe she's the goddess of death in this one, because
Hmm.
she's not one of the regular ones. So I believe she is portraying herself as the goddess of death. But like elaborate, that makeup, God, that must have been an all-day affair.
Oh yeah.
That makeup. And
It
even
definitely
her.
took some hours.
Yeah, and then like she took her eye color too to match this. So very brilliant, but like look at all that detail, the plumage, everything. I
Hmm.
mean, that's just a lot of work. She was so cute. Her smile just lit up the whole place. So I was like, I need to get a photo of you because, like, I love the headpiece. And she came
Mm-hmm.
with a staff. And I was like, okay, we got to do this. We got to get a photo of you. And then over here, you have some people who are just kind of running around.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing their Day of the Dead type of situation as well. And they look great. I mean, it's not as elaborate as some of the others, but
Mm-hmm.
that's still some good effort, to come
Yeah,
put
it looks really
together.
good.
Yeah. And hers was just super, super ornate. I have a better picture of her somewhere else, but she's one of the birds. And she just did an amazing job. She even got her eyes to match to go with the costume. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. I mean, so much creativity in this. And hers was my favorite. Like the way she did her makeup and like even the teeth, look how that works. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of detail. But look at that headpiece, Roxy.
That headpiece.
I mean, that is uh just amazing. So her stuff is right here. I need to send her this photo. So I'm gonna definitely try to send her this photo because I got a couple of them and this was like a really nice one, her praying. And if you hear that weird sound in the background, that's Amara sleeping, having a nightmare. So let me wake her up real quick. Hey, wake up, wake up. I don't know what's chasing her in her dream, but she's like, uh, so anyway, but a really, really great photo. Now
Mm-hmm.
this one fooled me. I actually thought this was a mom and her two daughters. It was not. So apparently these two young ladies are dressed very elaborately, very nicely, and it was just this lady who wanted a photo with them. I didn't realize that till after I took the photo. I was like, okay, whatever. And this was just a guy there hanging out. I doctored up the photo a little bit. I was like, let me work with this a little bit. And kind of did that photo and I was very, very pleased with this. Now, this is more an up close one of the two that we saw at the beginning, also
Mm-hmm.
there to celebrate Day of the Dead. And these were two women who were just kind of running around and, enjoying the festivities. But it was really nice. It was great. It's a little parade that happens in Houston. I think I was kind of just a little disappointed because they could have done a better job promoting it
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of didn't because it's like I didn't know about this until someone told me about it.
Same. I didn't know about it till you told me about
Yeah,
it.
so it was kind of like why wouldn't this have been promoted better? But it was small. It starts off with a parade and then you have the little fairgrounds and then you go over there and just kind of chill out and
Yeah.
enjoy yourself. But that's a little bit on the Day of the Dead. So Roxy, you think maybe next year you might hit it up and celebrate it?
Yeah, for sure.
I think next year, I mean, like I said, this has just been a funky time for me.
Yeah, same. This has
So,
been a very off year.
like I didn't do my offerings this year. So, and it's not like I have to, I still prayed for them at All Souls Day Mass. And, I kind of, now I will say this. So I noticed a lot more churches are getting into it too, kind of like mixing that cultural thing. Cause like at my church, St. Patrick's, they had this huge altar in the back where people can
Hmm.
come and bring photos of their family. And I know St. Joseph's Catholic Church does it too, where they have an altar off to the side where people can bring photos of their family members too. So, more and more people are getting into it. It's becoming more and more predominant. But I think next year we should really maybe attend this and dress up,
Yeah,
get some interviews going.
I'm up for it.
All right. That sounds like that's what we're going to do
I
next.
start planning now. I can have me a nice elaborate dress.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to paint the face and wear a black shirt and that's about it. I'm not gonna go. But the cool thing is I can like paint my entire head,
Yeah.
which I've done before. I've actually done that before. So that's very cool. I kind of enjoy it. Like there have been times where I actually painted up my whole face as a sugar skull as well. So that was kind of fun. But let's say you out there in listener land would love to share maybe some of your Day of the Dead photos or your Day of the Dead ideas, or maybe you just have questions. The only reason I'm kind of going off of this is because I wrote a paper on this in college, and it's becoming more and more of a bigger thing. So I was like, let's roll with it. It's a
Yeah.
big culture. So that's just, again, what I've done is very watered down compared to the elaborate history you can find out there. But you can always share your thoughts, ideas, and, your Day of the Dead photos with us at the VCR Show. And you can email us to the VCR Show at gmail.com. Hit us up on Insta and Twitter at the VCR Show. And check out our website, thevcrshow.com, and our YouTube channel, The VCR Show. And you can always hit up Roxy and share your hangover cures with her.
Or your beauty tips to get rid of
To make it look
looking
like
like you feel like crap.
to make it look like you're not having a hangover.
Right.
You can do that at her social medias, which are
on Facebook at Roxy Perez Curvy Model, on Instagram at Poproxx428, or on TikTok at Thepoproxx. And Poproxx is spelled Poproxx.
See, I would be more inclined to do what I used to do, but now people can see me, so I can't do all
that.
Not without them banning us. So.
Yeah.
But until next time, I'm Vara.
And I'm Roxy, even though I don't look like it.
But she still is. She still gives me that hard time.
Do.
And you've been listening to VCR.
Bye.
Bye-bye. You have been listening to VCR, creative content by Richard Christopher Vara and Roxy Perez. Logo by Richard Christopher Vara with assistance from Annie Ramirez. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach us at thevcrshow@gmail.com or our social medias at Instagram and Twitter at The VCR Show. And you can also check out our content at thevcrshow.com. The show's song is Addict by Thevcrshow, instrumental, and you can find them on YouTube Music Library.